clubs got beats. Hey, we need the medic.
Y'all fuck with this one.
Welcome back, people. So I'm sorry I've been gone. Yeah, you notice in the last few games I'm taking longer breaks between games, but look, this year really isn't going as good as expected, but not to worry. The games will continue, and I'm going to be starting another shooter game really soon. It's going to be an old one, a little bit of classics. So speaking of the classics, I thought we'd get a little head started on this. Now, chances are if you're on this channel, you're my age, and you probably started playing video games as a little kid. And there are a lot of things we don't see today, but we did see in the late 90s or the mid 2000s. I mean, like, I started, getting into gaming in the mid 2000s, and there were just some things that I was either spooked out by or just loved seeing. So let's take a look and let's see what it's all about.
Old gaming consoles fascinate me, and although they're not as high-tech as today's consoles, gaming consoles from the past have some qualities that make them just as good as the latest systems. However, one very distinctive quality that old consoles have are their so-called Easter eggs and error messages. Coming across these as a kid really spooked me, and the reason for this was not because of the visuals on the screen, but the sounds that came with the message. These eerie sounds definitely seemed out of place for a console that was meant to entertain, and it surely scared a lot of young gamers. That said, here are 5 gaming console sounds that spooked us as kids.
Okay, well, I didn't play PlayStation 1. I started off with PC and then I went on to PlayStation 2. But hopefully I can recognize some stuff here. Let's take a look.
Sega CD Warning. Now this first sound doesn't come from a console, but rather a game disc with a warning. And the sound that plays in this message is just as creepy as the following sounds on this list, which is why I felt this needed to be here. This message would play after inserting a Sega CD disc into a CD player instead of the Sega CD console. In other words, if you were to place a Sega CD disc into a regular CD player, you would get this message. Here, listen.
Warning: this disc is for use with a Sega CD system only.
Kinda sounds very 90s.
This disc contains CD-ROM data and is not for audio use. Please press stop on your disc player now.
Yeah, it kinda sounds like a 1980s or 1990s cyberpunk horror game.
This disc contains CD-ROM data that may damage your audio system.
Okay, I don't recognize this because I've never really used Sega.
Please stop playing this disc immediately.
Those eerie sounds. Fearful harmony. Unlike the sound I just talked about, this next one comes from a console, the PS1. The PS1 startup screen has always given me chills. Hearing that sound after turning on the PS1 wasn't scary, just pretty cool to hear. However, there is a sound on the PS1 that frightens me to this day, and it can be heard if you inserted a disc that the PS1 cannot read, such as a pirated game or a damaged disc. Upon inserting an unreadable disc, the PS1 would start up as usual, but after a few seconds, you would then hear a loud and startling sound and arrive at a screen similar to the startup screen. Then after waiting for a few seconds, a sound known as Fearful Harmony would begin to play. Here's the sound.
Okay, I'm quite curious. Maybe they're intentionally trying to scare kids in the gaming industry. How can you attach a PS1 to a modern TV? Yeah, someone's doing this on purpose.
Now what makes this frightening is the slow increase of this sound as you wait. It's almost as if PlayStation inserted this just to creep us out enough to never buy pirated games. This error message surely spooked me, but it isn't the only one from PlayStation. As you'll see next, there's more sounds from PlayStation consoles.
Okay, but I don't really have PlayStation 1. I never did play that. I started with PlayStation 2 when it came to consoles.
The sudden swoosh of this sound and its harshness was just enough to give me goosebumps, but what makes this scarier is the silence that follows. On top of that, you also arrive at a black screen. The darkness coupled with the silence can put you on edge expecting a jump scare. Thankfully, there was none of that.
That's new.
The PS2's red screen of death.
Oh!
By now you're probably surprised that most of these sounds come from PlayStation consoles, but I promise you that the last sound on this list will not be coming from a PlayStation, and I also promise you that
Come on, look, I started off on the PlayStation 2. You really should have let me hear it.
creepier than the ones I've already said. Now this error message, known as the red screen of death, appears on the PS2, and just like all of PlayStation's error messages, the red screen of death comes with an unnerving sound. Listen.
But I don't understand what's so scary about this. I went across this when I played PlayStation 2, and I just loved it. I liked it. It's not scary at all. If anything, it gives you a feeling like you're flying in the clouds or something.
You can get this message by inserting an unreadable disc, such as an Xbox or PC game. Seeing the screen turn red as dark ambient music played is probably what made this creepy.
Not once, but a couple times.
Now, before I move on to the next sound on this list, I just want to add that PlayStation has made other creepy things like their commercials, and because of that, it makes me wonder if PlayStation deliberately made these error messages frightening. Who knows?
Okay, let's see what's the last one.
Xbox. If you've ever owned the first Xbox, then you've most likely heard one of its creepy sounds.
Sorry, can't relate. So far, the PS2 thing's the only one I know about.
Unlike the other consoles on this list, Xbox has a few hidden sounds, all of which are downright creepy. Now, most of these sounds play in the background as you wait on the console's dashboard, but there are some sounds that are well hidden within the system. These deeply hidden sounds were discovered after someone had extracted the audio files from the Xbox's hard drive. And to no surprise, these sounds are quite unsettling. Here's some of the sounds that were found.
That also sounds like it's from some sort of 1980s or 1990s cyberpunk film. It's not that bad at all.
According to Microsoft, these sounds are actually public domain audio from NASA transmissions from the Apollo days that they tweaked. In other words, these were NASA transmissions that were modified in such a way that they came out sounding creepy. And the reason for adding these sounds, according to Microsoft, was so that the console would seem like it was made of technology from another world. Their intention to make the Xbox unlike any other console by adding those sounds was a success, but hearing those sounds as a kid didn't make us think Xbox was a superior console. It just left us feeling uneasy. Thanks for watching. If there's any creepy sounds from consoles I left out, let me know in the comments below. That said, I'm Bizarre Bub, and I'll see you in the next countdown.
Well, sadly to say, I was always more narrow-minded. I've only had 3 things in my life: PC, PS2, and PS4. And if I have to, I'll get PS5 later on in the future, but it's going to be way later on. That's why I hope that they're going to have a transition phase when it comes to games. But in general, one thing I want to say is thank you guys for watching. Let me know, did you encounter any of the things that we saw here? Because I so far I've only seen the PS2 thing, but it wasn't really that bad. Let me know what you think.
I pull up in the Benz, I run all tent, nothing else to talk about. Them boys, they geek, pull up, they'll shoot without no fucking doubt. Them niggas ain't living that life, they ain't told pipes, they doing it for fucking clout. They do what I say per bet on this shit, nothing else to talk about.